Hey guys, it's Aaron from BikeBerry, and today we're building a 79cc 4-stroke engine. This is currently our largest 4-stroke engine and features a pull start and center mounting design. It's spec'd at having 3 horsepower, a max of 3,600 RPM, 3.5 foot-pounds of torque, and rated to hit up to 35 miles an hour. But that's only if you leave the governor on. Take it off, and you'll find a whole new meaning of speed. If you're looking to buy this engine kit, check the link in the description, but be aware there are some limitations on the bike requirements. On that note, I'm going to send it over to Alan to cover those bike frames.
Your bike needs to be a standard male beach cruiser, road, or hardtail mountain bike. The tubes should be 25 to 28 millimeter in diameter with an open V-style frame. The frame should also have a 9 to 11 inch of clearance between the bottom bracket and top bar. The kits will fit most 26 inch by 1.75 inch wheel with a standard 12 or 14 gauge 36 count spoke. If you're in these right specifications, then you're good to go.
Before we look at the motor, let's get our bike prepped for installation, starting with the wide crank assembly. This is an optional purchase that allows the crank to safely clear the engine, but we recommend it to still have full use of your pedals. Remove the left pedal and undo the lock nut and the cone. We'd recommend using a pin face spanner to remove the cone, but a flathead screwdriver will also work. Keep in mind that the left side of the crank assembly is always reverse threaded. Once everything is undone, remove the crank and bearings. We need to remove the cones and replace them with the new bottom bracket. Use a metal rod and mallet to pop them out. Assemble one side of the bottom bracket and tap it in with a soft mallet. Be sure to line up the bowl holes before tapping them in place. Slide in the axle rod and the bearings, then tighten it all up with the cone. Slide the chainring on and use a lock pin to hold it in place. Mount the crank arms, being sure to use the correct side. Tighten everything down, place the dust cover on, and finish it off with new pedals. We got our wide cranks done, so let's take a look at our rear wheel and put a brand new sprocket assembly on. I'm going to send you over to Johnny to see how that's done.
Installing the rear sprocket is pretty straightforward, but take care to ensure that the sprocket is centered and aligned on the rear hub. If your rear wheel has a coaster brake, unbolt the brake arm from the frame and loosen the nuts on each side of the axle to remove the wheel. A good tip is to flip the bike upside down on the carpet to keep from scratching the bike. Here we have it on a bike stand for a better view. Remove the coaster brake arm. Sometimes the coaster brake's arm's nut is too tight. If it is, you should use leverage to remove it easier. Now fit the drive sprocket over the left side axle and make sure it fits properly. If it does not, you may need to grind or file the inside hole of the sprocket to get it to fit onto some bikes properly. The preferred method, although, would be to take it to machine shop and have it machined to the proper sizing. Place one of the rubber gaskets provided over the threaded end of the bolts on the opposite side of the sprocket. Cut between 2 of the holes on the other rubber gasket. Now place it over the axle on the inside of the spokes and align it with the bolts on the sprocket as shown, sandwiching the sprocket, rubber gasket, and segment over the spokes. Gather the 9 bolts provided with the sprocket and thread them through. The goal when assembling your rear sprocket is to make sure it clears the tire without going over and hitting the chain. This will be the most tedious part of the build, but with patience, you won't run into any drivetrain issues when you're starting to ride it. Then place the 3 metal retaining segments over the bolts. Before tightening the sprocket bolts, it is critical to make sure that the sprocket is centered in the wheel. This is usually very easy to do because the center hole should line up with the center hub. Okay, so when it comes to the coaster brake arm, after you put on the drive sprocket, sometimes it won't fit and it'll hit against the bolts. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to bend the coaster brake arm. And what I like to do is I like to put it in a vise, heat it up, and then just go ahead and push this back. I like to keep the vise about right here at this line, and I just heat it up and it just bends right into place. Don't overbend it, And when you put it on, it should clear the bolts. And like ours, when we just set it on, it'll clear right over the bolts, no problem.
If you're really looking to push your engine's performance, you may want to consider purchasing your BVR tuning sprocket adapter. Rather than putting all the force on the spokes, it evenly distributes that pressure onto the hub. Now that we got some of the bike prep out of the way, let's take a look at the motor. It comes pre-installed with an air filter, muffler, and a gas tank. We're going to do some modification to this engine, removing these components, making it fit into the bike a little better, and making it run a lot smoother. The gas tank can be easily removed by undoing 3 bolts and disconnecting the hose. Undo the 2 nuts securing the muffler and check that the gasket is still in good condition. The air filter has to be completely disassembled before it can be removed. Undo the 2 thumb screws, then take off the faceplate. Pull off the foam filter and the screen, then undo the remaining nuts. Finish it up by checking the gasket for damage and admire this beautiful engine. We got the engine down to its base parts. Now we have to do 2 things. First of all, put on a new air filter. Secondly, gotta take off the base plate and get it ready for mounting. Slip on the adapter and securely tighten down the nuts. The air filter will easily fit onto the adapter. Just tighten the clamp on and it's done. The base plate is easily taken off by undoing these 4 bolts. Mounting your engine will take a little trial and error to find the perfect position. Adjust the sliding brackets on the mounting plate so that the plate sits leveled and as low as possible, still leaving enough space for the chain. Place the motor on the mounting plate for a dry fit, then bolt everything down when it's properly seated. We had just the right amount of clearance to make our engine fit, but if you're having more trouble than we are, I'd recommend using our CNC Shorehead. It'll provide that extra amount of clearance that you may need. During our dry install, we found out that our mounting plates were blocking our bolts. So we're going to go ahead and mount this onto our engine before dropping it onto our bike. Line up the bolts with the slots on the mounting plate and bolt them together. After that, drop in the engine and tighten down the brackets for the mounting plate. Let's take a look at the transmission and the clutch. The transmission is modular. With these different size spacers, you're able to adjust the sprockets to different positions. The clutch is a centrifuge design, allowing the chain to be positioned on either the inside or the outside. Installing the heavy-duty transmission is a quick and easy process of lining up the bolt holes with the slots and bolting them together. Be sure to use a smaller bolt on the recessed slot. Remove the key stock from the keyway and use the appropriate spacer as needed. Line up the clutch with the keyway and slip the clutch onto the drive shaft. Tighten everything down with the provided washer and retaining bolts. When putting on the chains, be sure to measure out the proper length. If the chains are too long, use a chain breaker tool to get the proper size. After the chain is cut to the proper size, use a master link to put it all back together. Once the primary drive chain is on the transmission, finish it up with the chain guard. Removing this bolt will allow the shield to easily come off. Use the same bolt to secure the guard, and use a spacer and the extended bolt to secure the other side. If you haven't already done so, clear the way from the secondary drive chain. Use the same method as before to make any adjustments to the chain. Attach the chain tensioner to the chainstay, making sure the chain is properly in line before fully tightening it down. To install the muffler, you first need to install an adapter. Be sure to place the gasket on before installing the adapter. Align the second gasket and the muffler to the adapter, then bolt them on. Our top tube is a little wide for our gas tank, so we'll send you over to Alan to see how he installed it.
If you have a larger diameter top tube like this bike has, you will need the wide gas tank mount. To install the wide gas tank mount, it requires a little bit more elbow grease, but it is definitely worth it. Take the wide gas tank mount and bend them straight. Then, bend them by where the holes are. Do it for both brackets. Then, install the gas tank. Once the gas tank is installed, install the fuel valve and fuel line.
Install a fuel filter between the gas tank and the engine. Secure all ends with hose clamps or zip ties. Slide on the throttle and mark the position for the guide pin. Measure the guide pin to find the proper drill size for the hole we're going to be drilling. Start slow when drilling if a spot drill is not available, as the drill will want to walk. Once a proper dimple is made, you can speed up the drilling process. Connect the throttle cable to the throttle grip. Fish the cable through the throttle eyelet and lay it inside the guides. Use the 2 bolts to complete the throttle grip assembly. Slide the throttle cable through the guide and connect it to the throttle lever. If your cable does not reach the lever, find a cable with a shorter housing, or you can modify your existing cable if it is long enough. Due to the metal housing, a tool that can cut through all of this is needed. At this point, cut off the cable's ferrule, or if the cable is long enough, cut the housing and cable all together. Tape the end of the cable for safety, and measure out the correct length of housing that needs to be removed. Make sure there's about a ½ inch of cable past the bracket. Pull the cable into the sleeve so that it's past the cut mark. With your cutting tool, cut the excess housing. Crimp on a new housing ferrule, then slide the cable through the throttle lever. Cap the cable with the ferrule, or use some solder to keep the cable from fraying. Finish the cable by tightening its lock screw and adjust the cable tension. We're pretty much done with our bike build, but there's still one thing left we have to consider, whether we want our kill switch coming from our engine or if we want it coming from our handlebars. If you're happy with the pre-installed kill switch, you're all done. But if you want another option, the throttle comes ready with the kill switch. Disconnect the pre-installed kill switch and using the bullet connectors, connect the similar wires together. Connect black to black and color to color. Finish the bike by zip tying all loose cables. Fill the motor with 0.35 liters of 4-stroke oil and 87 octane unleaded gas. After that, you're ready to ride. If you're interested in learning more about motorized bikes, check out our other videos or click the link in the description. Thanks for watching and enjoy the ride.